My beloved child. Pause here for a moment. Do not scroll. What you are about to hear is a fictional spiritual story created for reflection, inspiration, and emotional entertainment, but within this story, something is unfolding that your heart may recognize before your mind understands it. Imagine, for just a moment, that somewhere behind a hospital door, someone has been lying awake in the middle of the night, surrounded by quiet machines, dim lights, and the soft footsteps of nurses passing through the hallway. Someone who has spent days pretending they were strong. Someone who told themselves they had moved on. Someone who convinced everyone around them that they no longer cared. And then, when the room became quiet enough for the truth to rise above the fear, they whispered one name. Your name. But that is not even the part of the story that should make you stop. Because when someone finally asked them what they wanted, they did not ask for their family. They did not ask for an old friend. They did not ask for the person everyone assumed would be beside them. They asked for you. And what happened immediately afterward changed the entire atmosphere inside that hospital room. Stay with this story. Because the next detail is where everything becomes more emotional than anyone expected. There are moments in life when a person can hide almost anything. They can hide disappointment. They can hide jealousy. They can hide regret. They can hide the fact that they still check an old conversation. They can hide the fact that they remember the sound of someone's voice. They can even hide love. But there are moments when life becomes quiet enough that pretending becomes impossible. And in this fictional story, that moment came unexpectedly. It happened after midnight. The hospital corridor was almost silent. The lights were low. The world outside had gone still. Cars passed occasionally beyond the windows, their headlights briefly moving across the walls before disappearing into the darkness. Inside the room, your soulmate was awake. They had been awake for hours. They kept closing their eyes, hoping sleep would finally take them somewhere peaceful. But every time they closed their eyes, memories returned. Not the dramatic memories. Not the arguments. Not the moments when either of you said things you wished you could take back. The quiet moments returned. The ordinary ones. The moment you looked at them without saying anything. The way you listened when they spoke. The small expression on your face when you were trying not to show that something had hurt you. The way you cared even when you were tired. The way you stayed when leaving would have been easier. And suddenly, lying there beneath the pale hospital light, they realized something they had spent a very long time refusing to admit. They had remembered everything. Not because someone forced them to. Not because they were trying to be sentimental. But because when everything else became uncertain, the memories that mattered most became impossible to silence. They turned their face toward the window. Their eyes filled with tears. And for the first time, there was no one around to impress. No one to convince. No one to perform strength for. So they whispered the truth. I wish they were here. That sentence was quiet. Almost too quiet to hear. But in the story, it became the sentence that changed everything. Because a few moments later, the door opened. A family member stepped inside. They looked exhausted. They had been sitting outside for hours, waiting for some sign that things were going to be okay. They walked toward the bed and asked softly, "Is there anything you need?" Your soulmate remained silent. The family member asked again, Water? They shook their head. Something to eat? Another shake. Do you want me to call someone? This time, your soulmate looked up. Their eyes were tired. Their voice was weak. And then they said something that made the person standing beside the bed completely freeze. I want them. The room became silent. The family member stared. Who? Your soulmate swallowed. For a few seconds, they could not say it. Because saying your name out loud would make the truth real. It would mean admitting that despite the distance, despite the silence, despite everything that had happened, you were still the person their heart searched for when fear stripped away every distraction. Then they finally said your name. And the person beside the bed knew immediately who they meant. The person they had heard about before. The person your soulmate had claimed not to care about. The person they had supposedly forgotten. You. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because the family member did not immediately call you. They asked a question first. Why? Your soulmate looked toward the ceiling. Their eyes became wet again. And they answered. Because I don't want to pretend anymore. Those words carried more weight than anyone in that room understood. Because sometimes the greatest confession isn't, I love you. Sometimes it is simply, I don't want to pretend anymore. I don't want to pretend I don't miss them. I don't want to pretend they didn't matter. I don't want to pretend I don't wonder where they are. I don't want to pretend I didn't make mistakes. I don't want to pretend that walking away made the feelings disappear. And most importantly, I don't want to leave this moment without telling them what I should have told them a long time ago. My beloved child, this fictional story is not asking you to believe that a supernatural force has literally contacted you. It is inviting you to step into a story about timing, regret, emotional truth, and the strange way people sometimes recognize what matters only after life becomes quiet. Because there is something deeply human about waiting until everything becomes fragile before finally saying what the heart has known all along. And your soulmate was about to say something else. Something that nobody in that room expected. The family member moved closer. What do you want me to tell them? Your soulmate closed their eyes. Their breathing became slow. Then they said, tell them I'm sorry. The family member asked. For what? Your soulmate opened their eyes. And this time, there was no hesitation. For making them think they weren't important. Silence. For making them wait. Silence. For acting like I didn't care. A tear rolled down their cheek. And for hurting the one person who never deserved it. The family member didn't know what to say. Because suddenly, the hospital room was no longer about an illness. It was about a lifetime of emotional decisions collapsing into one honest moment. And then your soulmate said something even more unexpected. There's something else. What? Tell them I remembered. Remembered what? Your soulmate stared toward the window. The promise. Now listen carefully. Because this is where the story opens another door. There was a promise between you. Maybe it wasn't spoken dramatically. Maybe there wasn't a perfect sunset. Maybe there wasn't music playing in the background. Maybe it was something simple. Something almost forgotten. Perhaps one of you once said, if you ever really need me, call. Maybe it was said casually. Maybe you both laughed afterward. Maybe life became complicated and the promise disappeared beneath months or years of silence. But your soulmate remembered it. And now, in that hospital room, they were thinking about it. The family member asked, "What promise?" Your soulmate smiled faintly. "The one they made me." Then they paused. "And the one I broke." Those words changed the room. Because suddenly, the person standing there understood that this was not merely a request to see someone. This was a reckoning. A confrontation between the person your soulmate had become and the person they once promised they would be. They reached for their phone. Your soulmate watched them. "Should I call?" For a few seconds, your soulmate said nothing. Then they whispered, "Yes." The phone was picked up. A contact list appeared. The family member searched. Your name appeared. Their thumb hovered over the screen. And your soulmate suddenly became nervous. "Wait." The family member stopped. "What?" Your soulmate stared at your name. Their entire expression changed. Fear appeared. Not fear of the hospital. Not fear of what the doctors might say. Something more personal. "What if they don't answer?" The family member said. "Then at least they'll know you tried." Your soulmate shook their head. "You don't understand." "What?" "They might answer." That sentence revealed everything. Because sometimes we are not afraid of rejection. Sometimes we are afraid of finally being given the opportunity to tell the truth. Your soulmate knew that if you answered, there would be nowhere left to hide. No more excuses. No more pretending. No more carefully chosen words. You would hear their voice. They would hear yours. And every emotion they had buried would suddenly have a place to go. The family member looked at them. "Do you want me to call?" Your soulmate looked away. "Yes." Then, after another pause. "No." The family member lowered the phone. Your soulmate whispered, "I don't know." And that was the first moment when the room revealed just how deeply this person had been struggling. They wanted you there. But they were terrified of seeing you. They missed you. But they feared what your eyes might say. They wanted forgiveness. But they didn't know if they deserved it. They wanted to tell you everything. But they had no idea where to begin. And then something happened that nobody expected. A nurse entered the room. She checked the monitor. She looked at your soulmate. Then she noticed the phone. "Are you waiting for someone?" Your soulmate looked down. "No." The nurse smiled gently. "Sometimes the person you're waiting for is the person you need to call." Then she left. Your soulmate stared at the closed door. The family member looked at them. And slowly, your soulmate reached for the phone. This time, they didn't stop. They pressed your name. The call began. 1 ring. 2. 3. The family member watched. Your soulmate's hands trembled. 4 rings. 5. Still nothing. Their eyes closed. Then the call ended. No answer. For a moment, your soulmate simply stared at the screen. The family member said, "Maybe they are asleep." Your soulmate nodded. But inside, something broke open. Not because you didn't answer. Because they suddenly understood how many times they had left you waiting. How many messages they had ignored. How many moments you had reached toward them and found silence. And now, for the first time, they were on the other side of that silence. They whispered. "Now I understand." The family member asked. Understand what? What it felt like for them. And the next words were barely audible. "I thought I was protecting myself." A pause. "But I was only teaching them how to live without me." That sentence stayed in the room. Because there is a painful truth hidden inside it. Sometimes people don't lose love because love disappears. They lose it because they repeatedly make the other person feel unwanted. They confuse distance with strength. Silence with control. Pride with dignity. And by the time they realize the difference, the person they hoped would always remain available has already learned how to survive without them. Your soulmate understood that now. And the story was about to become even more personal. Because the phone suddenly vibrated. Your soulmate looked down. A message had arrived. Their eyes widened. The family member leaned forward. "What does it say?" Your soulmate didn't answer. They read it again. And again. Their hands began shaking. "What?" the family member asked. Your soulmate slowly turned the phone toward them. The message was from you. But it wasn't what they expected. It wasn't a long emotional paragraph. It wasn't anger. It wasn't accusation. It was only a few words. And those few words were enough to completely change the direction of the night. Your soulmate read them aloud. "I'm here. Tell me what happened." The room went silent. Because you had answered. Not with resentment. Not with judgment. With presence. And suddenly, your soulmate realized something they had not been ready to face. You hadn't disappeared. You had simply stopped chasing. There is a difference. And in that difference, their entire perspective shifted. They looked at your message for a long time. Then they typed. Deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. The family member asked. "What are you trying to say?" Your soulmate whispered. "I don't know how to explain everything. Start with the truth." Your soulmate stared at the keyboard. The truth. That was the one thing they had avoided for so long. So they typed. "I asked for you." They stopped. Deleted it. Typed again. "I wanted you here." Deleted. Again. "I miss you." Deleted. Their eyes filled with tears. Finally, they typed something different. "I'm scared." They stared at those two words. Then pressed send. The message disappeared. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then your reply appeared. "What are you scared of?" Your soulmate looked at the screen. And this time, they didn't delete anything. They typed. "That you won't believe me when I tell you why I asked for you." Your response came quickly. "Tell me." Your soulmate took a breath. The family member stepped away from the bed, giving them privacy. Outside the room, the hallway remained quiet. Inside, The person who had spent so long hiding their emotions finally began typing the words they had rehearsed privately 100 times. But before sending them, they looked at the ceiling. And in this fictional spiritual storytelling moment, imagine the silence around them becoming almost sacred. Not because a supernatural event had been proven. Not because heaven had literally opened above the hospital. But because sometimes honesty feels sacred. Sometimes telling the truth after years of silence feels like stepping into a completely different life. Your soulmate began typing. I thought I had more time. They stopped. Then continued. I thought I could fix everything later. Another pause. I thought you would always be there. Their fingers trembled. I was wrong. They pressed send. You read it. No immediate response. Your soulmate waited. 1 minute. 2. 3. The silence became unbearable. Then your message arrived. What do you want me to know? Your soulmate looked at the words. And something inside them finally surrendered. They typed. I didn't ask for you because I was afraid. They stopped. Then. I asked for you because you're the person I thought about when I realized I didn't want to face this alone. They sent it. And then came the sentence that changed everything. I don't know if I deserve another chance, but I need you to know that losing you taught me what having you meant. Your soulmate put the phone against their chest. Their eyes closed. For the first time that night, they breathed deeply. But then the hospital door opened. A doctor stepped inside. The atmosphere changed immediately. Your soulmate looked up. The doctor was holding a file. The family member returned to the room. What is it? The doctor looked at your soulmate. We need to talk. Those 3 words were enough to silence everyone. Your soulmate glanced at the phone. Your conversation was still open. Your name was still on the screen. The doctor continued. There is something we need to discuss about what happened earlier. Your soulmate's face became pale. What happened? The doctor looked toward the family member. Then back toward your soulmate. There was an unexpected development. Your soulmate's hand tightened around the phone. What kind of development? The doctor hesitated. And that hesitation made the room feel colder. Your soulmate looked at the screen one more time. Your last message was still there. I'm here. Those 2 words suddenly felt more powerful than anything else. Because no matter what the doctor was about to say, your soulmate was no longer facing the moment completely alone. But then the doctor spoke. And the words that followed were not what anyone expected. Your soulmate listened. Their expression changed. They looked toward the family member. Then toward the phone. And finally, they whispered your name again. But this time, there was something different in their voice. Not fear. Not regret. Not even sadness. It was realization. The kind of realization that comes when a person suddenly understands that the moment they thought was the end may actually be the beginning of something they were never prepared for. The doctor placed the file on the table. Your soulmate reached for it. They opened the first page. Their eyes moved across the information. Then stopped. They read the same line again. And again. Their breathing changed. The family member asked, "What does it say?" Your soulmate didn't answer. Instead, they looked directly at the phone. At your name. At the message you had sent. And then they said something that made the entire room freeze. "They need to know." The family member asked. "Who?" Your soulmate looked toward the door. Then back at the phone. "You." Your heart, in this fictional story, is about to become connected to a revelation that has been hidden until this exact moment. Because the hospital visit was never only about what happened to your soulmate. There was another reason they asked for you. A reason they had not yet told you. A reason connected to the past. A reason that could explain why they pulled away when they loved you. Why they became distant when they wanted closeness. Why they acted cold when they were secretly afraid of losing you. And why, on this particular night, they finally stopped running. Your soulmate looked at the doctor. Then at the family member. Then at the screen. Their finger hovered over your name. They whispered. "Call them again." The family member asked. "Why?" Your soulmate swallowed hard. "Because there is something they have to hear from me before anyone else tells them." The phone began ringing. Your name appeared across the screen. And this time, you answered. "Hello?" Your soulmate couldn't speak. For several seconds, there was only silence. You said their name. Still nothing. Then, finally, their voice came through. Weak. Shaking. Almost broken. "I need to tell you something." You waited. They took a breath. And then they said, "I didn't ask for you because I was afraid I was going to lose my life." A pause. "I asked for you because I realized I had already been losing you for a long time." Silence. Then their voice became even quieter. "And there's something the doctor just showed me." Another pause. "Something about us." You asked. "What?" Your soulmate looked down at the file. Their eyes filled with tears. They opened their mouth to speak. But before the words came out, the hospital lights suddenly flickered. The phone connection crackled. The doctor stepped forward. Your soulmate looked at the file one more time. And the final words you heard before the call abruptly cut off were, "Your name is on this." The line went silent. And you were left staring at your phone, hearing nothing but the echo of those unfinished words. Your name is on this. On what? Why? What had the doctor discovered? What had your soulmate been trying to tell you? And why did their face change the moment they read that file? The answer was sitting in that hospital room. But you did not know it yet. And neither did the family member. Because when the call ended, your soulmate looked at the doctor and asked one final question. A question that would change everything that happened next. "Are you absolutely sure?" The doctor looked at the file. Then slowly nodded. "Yes." Your soulmate closed their eyes. A tear rolled down their cheek. And they whispered. "Then they have to know the truth." The screen went dark. The room fell silent. And somewhere, far away from that hospital room, you were still holding your phone. Unaware that the next conversation would reveal something neither of you had ever expected. But that revelation belongs to the next moment. And this story is not finished. Not even close.